Hi and welcome to this DCP Insight video. In today's video I want to explain what I've learned about bookkeeping after running my business for over 17 years. So if you've been following my YouTube channel, you know that I've been making some bookkeeping tutorials for small businesses, right? So I consider my business to be a small business. Been running it for the last 17 years, been quite successful, but I've had to do it the hard way. So no one's ever taught me how to do bookkeeping or how to run a business. I didn't go to business school or anything like that. I just started my company and I had to learn the hard way of how to run a business, right? But after 17 years, you can expect that I've learned quite a few things. And one of the most important things is bookkeeping. So if you've been following my YouTube channel, you know that I made quite a few tutorials on bookkeeping. Most recent one was done in Excel. So if you haven't actually viewed that tutorial, it's actually a set of 4 tutorials. I'll put links to those in the YouTube description. I've got some of the content from those videos here, and I just want to explain some of the things or the processes that I go through in my business to make sure that at the end of the year I've got a clear set of books to give to my accountant to do my bookkeeping, right? So I'm doing the bookkeeping, but I need to give set of information to my accountant so that he can, he or she can process my accounts for end of year and file all of my taxes and do all of the things that we need to do within a small business. Now, if you're running a larger organization, then you may choose to use some online software like Xero or QuickBooks or something like this. But if you're running a small business and you don't really want to pay out every month just to send out an invoice or just to, simple things that you can do yourself, then there's techniques that you can set up just using Microsoft Excel, or you can use OpenOffice, or you can even use LibreOffice to set up a bookkeeping system. So throughout the tutorials that I created, these were the 4 key aspects that we looked at. We looked at invoice tracking, creating an invoice template. So here's your invoice tracking, invoice template, expenditure tracking, and how to calculate VAT calculations. Now, the one lesson that I've learned over all of these years running my business is to keep my information and my content about my business, especially like the money going in and the money going out, keep that up to date as frequently as possible. So typically I update my accounting at least once a week, right? So towards the end of the week, I look at all the payments that have come through to my business and I make sure that I track all of those payments, who has paid me and who still owes me money. Same applies to expenditure. So when I'm spending money, typically I'm printing out all of the invoices that I receive for any payments that I've made, and I put them into a file, and I put them into date order so that I can flick through them quite quickly. So putting things into files is quite important. So all I do is go to Amazon, I buy these boxes, right? These lever arch boxes, or folders, let's call them, and I just put my paperwork in there, and I just use the dividers. You can get them little color dividers just to separate all the information inside of there. I put my bank statements in there, my credit card statements. I put everything in date order. Always put everything in date order, the most recent at the top, and then I work the opposite way around. So towards the end of the paperwork inside the folder will be the oldest content, or will be the most recent content, should I say. Just try to keep all of your paperwork organized. So I just have one folder basically for the whole year, one folder that contains all of my bank statements, because you get with my business, typically, my business, I get physical bank statements sent to my house, right? And also credit card statements. But then all the invoices that I print out for anything that I've spent, I put them into this folder and I put them into date order. What I've stopped doing is actually printing out the invoices that I send to customers. I no longer do that, and I haven't done that for many years. I spoke to my accountant. I said to him, if I send out 300 invoices every year, that's 300 pieces of paper and the ink to print all of that. Is it really necessary? And my accountant said, well, no, it's not really necessary. You don't really need to print out physical invoices as long as you've got a document that keeps track of all of these invoices, right? So I have PDF versions of all of my invoices and spreadsheet versions, and I email my customer the PDF version, and I keep track of everything inside of a spreadsheet. So let's just have a little quick overview of these tutorials, and we can kind of understand how you can set up your own bookkeeping system at pretty much no cost, right? If you've got Excel, probably a lot of you have Excel on your computers already. So if you have Excel, really you have a bookkeeping system. You just need to know how to use Excel to achieve that goal. So I will put links to these tutorials because they're more in depth. They explain things in more detail. But let's do a quick overview. So I'm going to go into this part 1. And inside of this part 1 video content here, we looked at creating an invoice tracking spreadsheet. right? So if I open up this Excel spreadsheet, we can see during this tutorial, we created a spreadsheet which gives us an invoice date, invoice number, the date paid, payment type, a reference, a description of the job. This is the payment reference, right, for when money's coming into our account. This is the company that we invoiced. Let's just zoom out a little bit here. This is the location of the company, the cost, and the date that they paid us, right? So anything in green in this spreadsheet, you can imagine if I send out 300 invoices, I need to know who's paid me and who hasn't paid me, so I know who to chase for payment and who has paid, so I don't need to really chase those people, right? So here you can see the unique invoice numbers. So every invoice should have a unique number, every invoice should have a date, and it should also describe what the job is. And anything that's marked in green is telling me that I don't need to chase this person anymore, they've made payment, but I need to make track of the payment date. So if they pay me on a certain date, if I invoice them on the 1st of the 1st 2019 in this example, and they pay me on the 14th, I need to know that. I need to know which company paid me, and it's nice to put a reference and how they paid. Most people will pay me via bank transfer. A handful of people pay me by check still, but 99% of all my payments come via bank transfer. And when you look at your bank statement, especially when you log in online, there'll be a reference, and they might put their company name and then your invoice number, or they might just put some random reference. But you should paste that into here, because then it becomes a good source of information to track that information back in the future if you need to, because typically each reference is normally unique. It has something unique about it, right? So you can imagine over a period of a year, you're doing the data entry into here. And this is just about tracking information. This is not creating an invoice. This is just tracking the information. What invoices have you sent out and which ones have been paid and which ones haven't been paid. So for me, this is most critical, because if you don't know who owes you money, you've got a problem in your business. And that's where I started from, right? When I started my company, maybe I sent out 10 invoices in the first, 2 or 3 months, because business is very slow when you first start off, right? It's a bit hard. But if I don't know who's paid me, it starts to become a problem, especially when you start to send out a lot more invoices, right? When you start to ramp up your business and you're sending out 5 or 6 invoices a day, by the end of the month, you've sent out a considerable amount, maybe 100, 150 invoices. Who's paid you, who hasn't paid you, that becomes a real problem. So just highlighting these elements in green, and once a week going to your online bank account and bookkeeping, right? Making sure you track who's paid you and who hasn't paid you. Then at the following week, you can chase them up on Monday. All of these invoices haven't been paid. You can email back them customers, and 99% of the time, they'll just go ahead and pay those invoices. And then the following week, you can mark those ones off. This way, at the end of the year, 90% of all the invoices I sent out in my spreadsheet are marked green. Maybe 1 or 2 people didn't pay me for some reason, but 9 times out of 10, everyone will always pay eventually, right? But it's nice to know that if you sent out an invoice 2-3 months ago and someone hasn't paid you for your work, you need to chase them up on payment, and never leave an outstanding invoice for that long anyway. You should have payment terms on your invoice. So this is tracking the invoices, tracking your payments coming in, right, to your business. So again, I explained that I made an in-depth tutorial on how to set up this spreadsheet correctly, and I describe everything inside this spreadsheet in more detail. So I'll put a link to that tutorial in the YouTube description. Let's close down this spreadsheet. We don't need to save anything in here, and we move over to the second tutorial that I made. And this one was all about creating an invoice. So here we can see an invoice tracker. But we should also have an invoice template. So we go into invoices here. We can see an invoice template. So what we did is we set up a single template here. We just put a fictional logo in here, but we can see there's a unique invoice number, there's a unique date. This is the company that we're invoicing. This is the address. This is their telephone number. These are the services that we provided. These are the number of quantities we provided. So we did logo, but we did 3 of them. And here's the unit price, and 3 times 50 is 150. And we use formulas to calculate a lot of these calculations, right? We used formulas. So if you follow this tutorial, I'll show you how to actually make this invoice in Excel, and to give you a grand total, and then your bank account details, right, where the people have got to make payment, and your payment terms is quite important. how long does it take, or how much time are you giving your customer to make payment. Normally I say either 7, 14 or 30 days depending on how long I've worked with that customer. If it's a new customer, I always take 50% deposit before I even start the job, and then I take 50% when I complete, which I think is fair, right? If I'm doing the work, once I complete 100% of the work, I expect you to pay the final 50%. So this is an Excel spreadsheet, but we can just simply go to File and we can go to Save as PDF. If I close this, you'll notice like here's the invoices, right? So this is the ones that I'm highlighting here are the ones that I'll actually send to the customer, the PDF versions. So I email that to the customer. Here's the customer. Here's the invoice that they receive, right, with all the money and all the information inside of it. And if we look at that invoice, let's just drag this to one side quickly. Let's drag that to one side. We'll move this to this side. And if we go back to the first tutorial, we'll notice in this spreadsheet, if we open it, the company was called Bojo Limited, and the total amount was 145, right? Something like this. Like for 3 logo designs, here it is 145. So in this invoice that we designed, we have the 3 logos there, right? It just happened to be a different value. I think this one, yeah, we just made up this invoice, the amount in there. It's just fictional information, but typically you would take the exact information from your spreadsheet here, and you would add that into the invoice here, so you get the correct total amount. Let's just have a look at one of the other invoices that we created, because maybe that one was just an example one. Let's just go back into here. Let's look at this Gold Grove. This is number 2 invoice, right? Let's have a look at this one. In fact, let's look at the PDF version, would make more sense. So here's the PDF. Let's see. Yep. This one's the PDF version. So it's for website design. So here you can see a unique invoice number and a unique invoice date. So it's 2nd of 1st 2019, and it's invoice number 2. So you can see invoice number 2 right at the end, right? And here you can see the date, 2nd of 1st 2019, and here's all the information about the company. And here's what we did. We did website design. We did one. It was £1,450. Here you can see that same value right over here, right? And the company was based in Germany, but we just made up the address. This was all fictional information, but they paid us eventually. So we look at our bank statement. This is what I sent to the client, this invoice. They looked at that invoice, they looked at my bank details, they saw it was 14 days payment terms, and they made the payment. So we're sending them a PDF version, right? We're not sending it in the post as a physical copy. We're sending them just a PDF version. So I don't actually print out all of these invoices. I hand this document to my accountant. I say to my accountant, everything in green has been paid. Anything in blue, I have invoiced, but I haven't paid it. So that will maybe go into the next financial year, because typically you'll go and see your accountant once a year at the end of your business year. When you hand him all this paperwork, he'll make sure that you're not paying tax on anything that's marked in blue. Because you don't want to end up paying all of these tax, right? Your 20% corporation tax on payments that you haven't even received yet. Doesn't make financial sense for you, right? So that's how we combine those two tutorials together to create. Let's just go back to our documents to create the tracking spreadsheet and then the invoice itself. And then we also, in our business, we want to track our expenditure. So if we look at let's say, let's have a look at expenditure tracking. Let's have a look at this document here. So here we can see all of the payments that were made by our business. This is only a handful of examples, but we paid Amazon for a laptop computer. We paid using our credit card, and it was £895. So once I've documented that information inside of this spreadsheet, I'll put it into my file, right? Remember, I showed you on Amazon. We have these files, so you put it into the file and you put it in the same order that you're making payments or you're spending money, right? So you put them in the same order, so when you flick back through later and you're looking at everything, or you're looking at this spreadsheet and you're trying to find that paperwork, it's in the same order, it's in the same date order, which makes your life much easier, much easier, right? So expenditure tracking is just as important as money coming into your business, right? The revenue that you're generating, because you want to show when you're paying staff wages. I use certain color codes. So when I pay my staff wages, I use orange. So orange always in this spreadsheet, when I create it, it always highlights as staff wages. So when I look through the spreadsheet and I'm looking at how much did I pay them in January or February or March or some point in the year, I can quickly flick through the spreadsheet. It might have like 500 items in here. I can easily see the ones that are in orange, and I know how much I paid them on certain dates. Everything in green is just like general payments, and then anything in blue is actually international payment, because you can see I've put USA location, right? So I paid in US dollar, and I paid using PayPal, and then PayPal will send me a receipt for that payment. But typically when I paying US dollar, it converts it into pounds, and it takes pounds from my account. So it will tell me I paid $5, but actually I paid £3.90. So I put that into the spreadsheet, and then I actually write that down on the invoice that this company sends to me. So if it's called SerpLab, whatever it's called, it's for some tracking or something like this. When I print out that invoice, on the invoice, because it's from an American company, it's going to say $5, isn't it? But I actually handwrite on there £3.90, and I also write on these documents or these invoices that I'm printing out, how did I pay? So I just write down PayPal £3.90, and I put the date there. I actually handwrite the date that I paid or the money came out of my account. Because with PayPal, sometimes you'll find that you may pay on the 6th of the 9th or the 6th of the 1st, 2019, but your bank statement doesn't show the payment coming out of your account until 3 or 4 days later. If it's a credit card payment, normally it comes out on the same day. You can see the same day. But if it's a PayPal transaction, normally it takes 3 or 4 days for that to show in your account. So you want to track, in your bank statement, you want to check to see when did this actually get paid from my account, so you're logging accurate information. So this is very, very critical and important inside your business. So definitely focus on tracking your expenditure, but also your revenue coming in, right? Those are the two critical things I believe in small business bookkeeping. It's worked for me, and I've been doing it for 17 years. I've used this technique here for 17 years, and it served me very, very well. So there's no reason why it shouldn't serve you well, as long as you use it correctly. The last tutorial, we really focused on actually creating an extension to our spreadsheet, and we actually added in VAT information. So I'm just trying to look at this document. This doesn't look like the right one. This is expenditure tracking. So let's see, VAT bookkeeping system. So if we look at invoice tracker here, let's just see. Here we can see that we extended our original invoice tracking system to include VAT and do automatic VAT calculations for the invoices that we're sending out to customers. And we also updated the invoice template itself to support VAT payments, right? Or include VAT cost. So if we go into our invoices here, 03, and we look at maybe this last one, let's just have a look at this last one. Here we can see that it's including VAT, whereas the basic bookkeeping first 3 tutorials we focused on businesses that didn't or were not VAT registered, right? So I'm VAT registered at this point in time, and I update. I basically automate a lot of the VAT calculations in my business. I don't want to sit here with a calculator trying to work out VAT. I want to use Excel as a tool to help me to do that. So if we open up this invoice tracker, and if I were to create a new row here, and if we put in a date, today's date, believe it or not, is the 5th of the 1st, 2022. Can you believe it? So let's just say that we drag this down. We're going to create a new invoice, and it was for web design, and we sent it out to a new company. So that's the name, New Company Limited. That's actually the name of the business, and it was UK, and the amount was £800, right? And as soon as I move to the next row, you can see that the VAT calculations are done for me straight away. So we know that these VAT calculations are correct. We can also double check them with a calculator. We can do 800 times 1.2, and then we'll see that it's 960 total, which is the correct amount. So I don't really want to save that. That's just kind of like just demo information there, right? And we can also do things like track how much revenue we're generating, excluding VAT, including VAT, and how much the VAT amount is, and lots of good things that we learned in this series of bookkeeping tutorials, these 4 here. So I guess the real thing to take away from this video is keep on your bookkeeping, keep consistent on your bookkeeping. So if you're going to set some time aside, normally I set time aside at least once or twice a week, and I try to keep on top of my bookkeeping. If you're VAT registered, normally, especially in the UK, we have to submit our VAT returns every 3 months, right? So every quarter, every 3 months, we have to submit our VAT returns. So it's important that we keep track of our books so we don't have a lot of headache. The last thing you want to try and do is wait 3 months and then try and do all of your paperwork at the end of 3 months. That's the thing that I used to do, and it became a big headache because it takes a long time. It's better to do it weekly, and it'll be less painful for you. Trust me, I've been there and done it. And if you spend a little bit of time weekly tracking your payments, money coming in, money going out, it's going to make your life a lot easier. So I'll put links to all of these tutorials in the YouTube description so that you can go and follow them. I believe they're good. Let's just double check, right? I'm just quoting that. So let's just go to my YouTube channel. All right, we'll go to YouTube, we'll go to my videos, and we'll go to most popular. So you can see all of everything in most popular, and we should find the bookkeeping tutorial right here. So it's done 194,000 views. It's got lots of likes. Lots of people seem to like this video, and it's my own system, right? So it's knowledge that I've had to gain or learn myself, just teach myself a good bookkeeping system. And this is knowledge that I want to share with you guys, so hopefully you can learn from that as well. And especially if you're starting a new business, that's where it's the most difficult. If no one's here to explain these things to you, it becomes very difficult to set up a good bookkeeping system. But if I can help you to do that, then that's great. And here you can see one that I did 7 years ago, right? So I did this bookkeeping system 7 years ago, and then 4 years later or 5 years later, I created this Excel version because I was using Open Office here, I believe, and now we're using Excel. But you can do this in LibreOffice, Open Office, Microsoft Excel. It doesn't really matter. You can even do it in Google Sheets if you want, right? Spreadsheets are spreadsheets. The fundamental logic of a spreadsheet is the same regardless if you're using Microsoft Excel, if you're using Open Office, Calc, if you're using LibreOffice Calc, if you're using Google Docs. It doesn't really matter. It's all going to work the same way. So let's go ahead and minimize this. That's the end of this insight video. I just want to try and inspire some people out there, hopefully, to show you that you can actually do your bookkeeping, and you can actually do it for free, right? So this system that I've set up, it doesn't actually cost you anything. All it's going to do is cost you time. You don't have to buy software, especially when you start a small business. You don't have to go and spend $30-40 every month on some accounting software to do this for you. If you're willing to put the effort in and willing to gain the knowledge, you can actually save yourself maybe $300-400, even $500-600 or pounds every year, not having to buy online software. So if I did the maths, let's just say online software costs, I don't know, for a business like mine, that's the wrong bit of software. Let's go to calculator. Let's say in 17 years, if I would have spent maybe £500, let's say £400 a month, over the last 17 years, I would have saved £6,800, right? That's a considerable amount. That's almost like close to maybe $8,000, probably a bit more than that, right? $8,000. What could you do with $8,000? You could put that into marketing your business. You could put that into building a really awesome website for your business. You could do lots of different things. You could go on a nice holiday. Maybe we'll go to this place here in the background. Looks quite nice, doesn't it? So hopefully you'll go and watch these video tutorials and you'll learn from them. Remember, I'll put links to all of them in the YouTube description. That's the end of this video. Hopefully you find it insightful. It is an insightful video. It's not a tutorial. It's just explaining some things that I've done in the past and just trying to reiterate them. And maybe you're starting a new business. It is 2022, the beginning of 2022. So let's make this a successful year for you. I wish you all the luck if you're starting a new business. If you're running a current business, then I wish that you generate more revenue in your business and you're more successful. Okay, that's the end of this insight video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video tutorial.